Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! And a little while back, I asked you for the worst Pokemon Unite advice you had heard. I was going to throw some of my own in here, but we covered just about every topic that I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to go through a lot of the worst advice for Pokemon Unite, why I think maybe some of it's okay, and some of it is downright tragic. So watch this video if you want to know what not to do. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I wanted to talk about that you hear a lot is about scoring inside of Pokemon Unite. And there are a lot of different topics around it. Obviously, when to score, how much to score, how important scoring is inside of a match of Pokemon Unite. And I want to start with this comment. From Druid T8949, it's not anything I or any of us have been specifically told, but if this is turning into a video, it's worth talking about. Scoring is the most important thing. The game teaches players that scoring is more important than anything else, and while that was true for a while when Thea was first released, it's just teaching players bad habits now. This is just such an interesting topic. I could maybe make a whole video about scoring, but let's get into this briefly. First, yes, scoring is the win condition, so the team that scores more points wins. We all know this. Even if there's a draw, the team that scored the most points first is the team that wins the match. However, there are a lot of things that happen inside of a match that really cause that to be the case. It's not just that people are putting more points in goals, it's almost always that they win the biggest fights inside the game, one specifically being the Rayquaza fight. If one team wipes the other team off the map, takes Rayquaza, I would say their chances of winning, without an exact number, their chances of winning are probably 90%. Now, if you take Rayquaza with only 2 allies up and there are multiple enemies, that gets way more complicated. But if you win the team fight, resound like a massive win, take out the entire enemy team, it's so unlikely that you would lose that match, because then yes, you go score points and you get this massive shield, this scoring that can't be interrupted. You become more powerful also, by the way. It's without question the win condition really of the game is who performs better at this fight, and the way you win that fight is having a Unite move, having your team there, having a better composition than the enemy team, and having more levels. So yes, scoring is the win condition, but it would be like not understanding that there's more to the game than just putting points. It would be like thinking that the only thing that happens inside of a game of basketball is people shoot the ball. That's not what goes on. There are all these things that happen before someone can score, right? It's not just that one guy shoots and then they hand it to the other team and then they shoot. It's not just scoring points like that. There's all this complex stuff that goes into someone possibly scoring, and the complex stuff that happens inside of Pokemon Unite that goes into someone or some team scoring the most points is the final fight. Our next comment is a really interesting one, and I want to break it down a little bit. From Whip Van Wrinkle 8525, the top Reggie meta when Thea got released, or the Regice is so useless, right around the same time. So this is really interesting because when Thea Sky Runes got released, it was actually quite a bit different from Remote Stadium, and Rayquaza and Zapdos didn't exactly perform the same way. Over time, they have become very, very close. I mean, it's a very, very similar situation. Rayquaza gives the shields and crazy fast scoring. Rayquaza also has, I believe, the same kind of health pool as Zapdos did, maybe slightly less. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but when Thea came out, Rayquaza had more HP, so many matches were not going down to a Rayquaza flip or a Rayquaza secure, because even if a team would KO a lot of members of the enemy team, they wouldn't have enough rip to take down Rayquaza. So tons of matches were actually ending without Rayquaza being the ultimate win condition. So one of my favorite metas to play inside of Pokemon Unite, but it also created, I think, a lot of problems, because what would happen with a meta like this is you would start to go back to a score composition meta. Right when Pokemon Unite got released, early on in tournaments, there were kind of two ways of playing the game, it felt like. And they were sort of battling to see which would win. There was a score composition that really didn't focus on fighting at all. It was clearing enemy Pokemon and scoring as much as possible, not even participating sometimes in Zapdos, just to run points into the enemy base. And then there was the more standard format that you kind of see in tournaments and the things that have won, you know, the world championships and such since then, which is more of a win team fight situation. Of course, score a lot of points. You'll see the best team score a lot of points, but they'll be focused on getting getting experience, winning big team fights, and winning the final fight at Rayquaza, then Zapdos. So when Thea first got released, it actually was quite different. I understand there's a thought process in the community that some people have really stuck to that idea that that's how to play Thea Sky Ruins, but I personally don't agree with that. I don't think that people saw one video back when Thea got released and then never changed their playstyle. And the reason I know that not to be the case is every time there's something broken or meta or whatever, people are running it within 2 hours. So I don't believe that people are stuck on one old mindset. And when Thea got released, I think it was very viable to not only worry about Rayquaza and worry a lot about scoring. As far as Regice being bad, it was bugged. So it was kind of bad. It didn't work, but it works now. All the Regis work now, and they're all pretty good in my opinion. From Waterfrost 5080, Azumarill being B tier in Game 8's tier list. Azumarill is the best Pokemon I've played and one of the cutest. This is interesting because people get really riled up about tier lists and things like that. And all a tier list really is someone taking all of their expertise, all of their playtime, and as well as all the data that they have available and giving you the best estimation for how a Pokemon is going to fare. Your mileage will always vary. However, I mean, Azumarill in the B tier is really not the craziest placement, even though I love it, and Water Pulse Plus is what I named my son. From Nyx Sakura, the EXP share from bot objective isn't important. Scoring more with Regieleki is more important. I actually made a whole video based on this. I'll have to link it in the description with thoughts from a lot of the biggest content creators and professional players in the Unite community. I think there are valid arguments for both objectives at different times. However, experience overall is probably one of the biggest ways that you can win a match, but I mean, look, breaking goals, it does break hearts. I'm telling you, you break a tier 2 goal early and the surrender vote is 8,000,000% more likely. So I understand there being a little friction between these two objectives. And hey, there are two objectives, man. You gotta pick a side. From Z Derpy Diamond 4800, my cousin once said you just kind of wander around the map aimlessly. He's only played about 5 matches. Honestly, some people do take this advice. This is actually a funny comment, but also I think kind of important to think about. Have an idea for why you are doing what you're doing. I know that's sometimes you're just playing a game, you're vibing, you're not really thinking about it, but you should be kind of thinking as you're doing it, why am I going there? What am I doing? What am I trying to do? How is this providing value to my team? I actually think it could change your gameplay a lot to go, what can I do to help my team the most right now? Sometimes that answer is there are 3 Indeedis that are spawning in the top path. No one's clearing them. We don't have a good objective to go to. I'm going to go farm some XP right now. Like, there are lots of times where I think deciding what is actually important and kind of maybe even out loud. Like, I love talking through my gameplay like I do for all of my videos and stuff like that, because it forces you to rationalize your decisions, and sometimes you go, I actually really screwed up there, or oh no, this is totally right, we needed to do this. From Rooker MTG 9321, if you're getting MVP, it means you're playing well. There are times games gives the MVP award out to a player who actually played well, and there are other times where the MVP system inside the game is so phenomenally flawed that they give it to a player who literally didn't participate in the match in any way. They just didn't get KO'd at all because they were never at a fight, and they scored points when your team was trying to fight. Like, the MVP system in Unite is a mess, and I do think it really rewards bad behavior. Not always. Sometimes a match totally makes sense. You'll go, that Lapras was definitely our MVP. And other times you'll see it and you'll go, that Crustle couldn't have been less of an MVP, and it gets the award. It's actually a pretty rough system. It would be better if the team voted on MVP. Like they do this at the end of some games where you can kind of thumbs up like which player you think did the best or something like that. That actually might be a really cool way for players to go, oh, my team valued the contribution I was, giving them. From Shash8048, in my early Unite days, I watched a video that says you and only you are responsible for your losses, and dang, was that an unhealthy mindset to have. Of course, you are responsible for as much as you are responsible for inside of a match. Let me word that in a better way. You can take responsibility for as much or as little as you want. There's no way that you're going to be able to change your ally Cinderace's playstyle. You can get on the mic and yell at them. None of it's going to work. So all you can really do from a loss or even a win, a lot of people don't think about this in a win, is look at what you could have done better and try to improve next time. But no, there are some matches in Pokemon Unite, in fact it happens quite often, that you simply could not have had the impact to win the entire game. It's just the truth of it. So no, you are not the only person responsible for your losses, but you are also never going to fix someone else. So work on yourself. From ZapFreak1020, and this is about scoring again, which I think is a huge conversation. Someone on comms got mad at my friend for not solo scoring their 40 points to break top lane. Our goal was already broken. Reggie was about to spawn. He was under leveled, and we found out later that 4 enemy teammates were just waiting in the bushes. So yeah, safe to say that probably wouldn't have gone well for only overcapping like 10 points. It's really interesting because people put a lot of different priority on breaking goals. There are times where I think you just need to put some points on the board. You're so far behind that if the enemy even just has a decent Ray fight, doesn't even take Ray, you're just in so much trouble. So sometimes you do need to put some points on the board, but I often see people throwing themselves into a tier 1 goal when there are so many other things on the map that could provide you lots of value. And if you do break an enemy tier 1 goal, especially with a weak break, you have to recognize that you're about to give them a whole bunch of catch-up experience on the map, that delicious catch-up experience in the top and bottom lane, especially top lane, because it's 3 safe Indeedis. So I think scoring is a huge conversation, but there are a lot of people who will just walk into a goal that you know is defended by multiple enemies. You know it's never going to work, when honestly they probably should be farming, getting their Unite move, and getting ready for the next big fight. From First Riddick 78, junglers should only go to the strong lane to have a so-called snowball effect. It works occasionally, but showing up to objectives from the weak lane, being 2 to 3 under leveled, means they will have time to farm while the other teams gets free objectives, plus East kills, which feeds them even more. I think there's a little bit of a spelling issue here, but I understand what they're talking about. They're saying people have talked about ganking or going to and looking for a fight where you have more members in the strong lane. In Pokemon Unite, I actually think that is overall, especially in solo queue, probably the better choice to pick a lane that is strong and help it. But there are good arguments on either side of it. The situation inside of a match of Unite is it's not often that you are going to shore up your team's weaknesses. It's often that you're going to lean into your strengths. So let's say you have one lane where one of your allies just keeps like inting for stacks. They just keep jumping into that tier 1 goal zone. They just keep getting KO. They're pinging thanks and stuff like that. Sure, you could go up to that lane to help that Zarina get some more experience and hopefully evolve, but also just because that lane is weak doesn't necessarily mean that shoring up that weakness would have provided you more value than winning hard inside of a lane, especially if you're a jungler looking for stacks or your lane partners in that lane are looking to power up as well. So I don't know, I'm of 2 thoughts on this. I think you can really go with either play style and it's whatever suits you better, but oftentimes you want to find opportunities to win inside of Unite and not find opportunities to not lose. From 2007, E-Tech, getting more experience from killing opponents is better than the farm, so ignore the farm. Late game experience will come later. One thing is true inside of Unite, and I think a lot of people do need to recognize this, is that a high level enemy KO is extremely valuable. So if you're able to burn a Unite move, but take away a level 13 Meowscarada on the enemy team, while you guys are only level 10 or 11, that's actually really valuable for your team, because the way experience works in the game is the lower level Pokemon get so much for the KO, as opposed to the higher level Pokemon just getting a little bit for KOing lower level Pokemon. So you actually do get a lot of experience for KOs inside of Unite, but farming is a huge priority as well. From Blue Ball 3923, my friend said that experience is important for carries like Cinder, Gren, Zacian. Very true, by the way. So he said put experience share on them. Experience share. Truly the best item inside of Pokemon Unite that is the least understood. And to be fair, I think you need to have a curious mind when you're trying to get better at something. So you need to reach out and figure out how these items work. But I will say I would love it if the game made it super clear how experience share worked and that it's so valuable so everyone understood it, because man, it's so good. From @Maximilian Hormosilla 2544, sorry if I got that wrong a little bit. In solo queue, don't play defensive or support mons because they can't carry. I mean, it has a point, but if a Glaceon, Zoroark, and Mimikyu, I don't want another attacker, all-rounder, or speedster. I want a balanced team. Man, this is such a great topic of conversation. Maybe I'll have to make a video entirely dedicated to it. The truth of the matter is, being able to carry is extremely valuable in a solo game because you don't know if any of your allies are going to be able to do it. And if you're the highest ranked person on your team and you're good with carries, it's often the case that being a Pokemon that can carry would be the most valuable thing that you could provide to your team. Unfortunately, everybody wants to carry, which is why you'll see teams where every single player picks an attacker or speedster or something like that. It's the glamorous role, it's the lead singer, it's out in front, it gets the 5 KOs. But yes, the truth of it is, a team with a good defender and support and then a few other solid carry Pokemon is going to dominate a team with a bunch of carries almost every single time. And I know people don't like to do it and they've got their big egos, but I personally love picking up a support, love picking up a defender. I know my win rate's gonna suffer a bit because of it. I know playing Moonlight, EXP share Clefable is not gonna let me carry as hard, but sometimes I think you just gotta suck it up and fill for the team. And if you do that a lot, if you start filling roles and start playing different Pokemon, different roles, you'll start to understand the game in such a better way. I highly recommend getting away from the thought process that you only need to carry inside of a match. However, you probably should have like 1 or 2 good carries on your like little internal roster, like a couple Pokemon that okay, I can lean into this game. I play a great Aegislash and I know I can carry with it. There's so many more that we can go to, but I want to end out with this one because this is a really interesting topic and I've thought of making a video just on this as well. From ViperX0113, lots and lots of channels out there get a random build and then they go with noobs in standard matches. They deal 100k damage and proceed to say this is the most OP build ever. The thing about, there are a few things to hit on here. First off, YouTube thumbnails and YouTube titles are made for people to click on them. It's unfortunate, but the truth of the platform is that a video like this is the worst Pokemon ever, it sucks so bad, is gonna do better than what a mid Pokemon. This thing's mid as heck, the joke I often make. So it's weird, but fighting for attention on YouTube is a thing. And the truth of the matter is more people click on videos like that. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish you could just post a video of a really cool build for a new Pokemon without the title being so broken crazy. But the fact is more people click on, oh my god, so broken. So that's like part of it right there. Another part of it is damage inside of Pokemon Unite is really interesting because I have had games that were phenomenal games, but if you look at the damage numbers, it's like, okay, that was pretty good. Maybe it was 80,000 or something like that on my carry, and we had 14 KOs. Like, cool, that's a cool match. And if you watch the match, man, like, there were great plays inside of it, zoning out the enemy, all that's amazing. But people geek out over numbers and stuff like that. They really, really do. When the truth is, when you see a big damage number, it usually means a few things. One, there were big sacks on the enemy team that could soak up damage, big like tanks. They probably had a supporter that was healing them so you could continue dealing damage to that Pokemon. So there's even bigger sacks of HP at that point where you're just farming damage numbers off them. They didn't surrender right when Rayquaza went down, meaning that you have this Rayquaza shield and at the end of the match you're just kicking flaming Cinderace soccer balls at them while they stand on their pad and you're getting huge damage numbers. So the broken thing and the damage number thing, all of that is interesting, and there are real things you can learn from it. There are Pokemon that you can see are just so insanely broken where you're like, wow, this Pokemon got 250,000 damage in a regular game. That's way out of line. I'm thinking of like Zashi and Mewtwo releases and stuff like that. But in general, Yeah, the numbers, all of that, it's all completely relative. It's all completely relative to what happens inside of that match. But I don't see a lot of people online making things that are untrue, but I do see lots of things sensationalized for clicks. That's just the truth of YouTube, unfortunately. There are more, but those are some of the worst pieces of advice inside of Pokemon Unite. What did we miss in this video? What do you agree with or disagree with? Please let me know in the comments. As always, be cool to each other, but it's totally fine to have a difference of opinion. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I love you. I'll see you all next time. We did it.